More pharma companies are running both human and animal drug production under one manufacturing plant. Thanks to their shared standards, switching between the two takes minimal effort. Here to break this down are Stephanie Ledgwig from Linesight and Gordon Nicholson from IPS. Welcome, Gordon and Stephanie. So, what changes are needed to convert a human pharma facility for animal use and vice versa? Stephanie, would you like to start?
The key is to knowing where the requirements overlap and where they diverge. Both types of facilities will follow GMP standards, so that's your good manufacturing practices. So you're likely starting with a solid foundation when it comes to things like contamination control, clean room classifications, and your validated equipment. But the real work begins when you dig into, I suppose, the product specific needs. For example, animal health, there tends to be a bigger emphasis on high volume, cost efficient manufacturing, and that might involve larger batch sizes, which can mean different equipment, containment setups, and raw material handling processes. If you're moving from human to animal health, you might find the regulatory environment is a bit more flexible in some regions, but I will caution ever so slightly because, as we know, it's still a heavily regulated industry. But this can make the transition easier. If you're going the other way from the animal to human health, you're likely going to need to tighten things up. So that can mean more stringent sterility controls, traceability measures, upgrades to meet stricter documentation and validation requirements. So in essence, it can be done efficiently and especially if the facility was designed with flexibility in mind, but it does take some strategic planning to make sure you're meeting the right regulatory and operational requirements for the transition.
Physically, we don't really need to do any major changes as most of the time the facilities are designed in a similar approach or similar way. But for equipment, we would be looking at, if we were using the same space or the same facility, we would either look to replace the equipment in a space or use single-use equipment so that we're not creating any cross-contamination. If we're using the same facility space, we would look to decontaminate the space so that, again, we're not creating a cross-contamination between different products and between different species.
Well, this sounds efficient, Gordon. I think not all are able to adopt yet. Can you cite some regulatory hurdles that slow down this kind of cross-sector facility adaptation?
So when we look across the globe, there's different regulators for human and animals, although a lot of similarities between them. Those different regulations sometimes have some different requirements, but pretty much we can make them match or align to the higher standard. But probably more importantly is the concerns over cross-contamination between species. And we've seen that in pandemic situations as of in the recent past. So when we're looking at making a vaccine for an animal, we don't want to take animal DNA or materials and cross-contaminate those with human DNA and materials and vice versa.
Now, going back to you, Stephanie, in what situations does cross-functional facility use deliver the greatest value?
So converting a facility from human to animal health or vice versa can be a really smart way to unlock more value from an existing site, especially when the core infrastructure like your clean rooms, your HVAC, your utilities are already in place. And this approach can be particularly beneficial in high-cost, space-constrained locations like Singapore. The real strength of cross-functionality lies in adaptability. If demand shifts or a new product needs to be launched, especially in modular setups, companies can reconfigure or expand far more easily than retrofitting a traditional facility. This enables faster responses to market changes, greater capital efficiency, better use of existing assets. And this is key, really key in an industry where speed to market is critical. At Linesight, we work across a range of sectors and adaptive use is very much a hot topic. Many clients are exploring how to repurpose existing facilities to unlock greater value. In particular, the overlap in manufacturing standards between human and animal health presents a great opportunity to convert facilities across these sectors. And this really helps drive innovation, improve efficiency, and make smarter use of existing assets.
For sure. So I think where we see the biggest value that's going to occur in that is somewhere where we need to build a facility where there's either a low use, so we want to be able to utilize the equipment more regularly. The second one is, as we've already mentioned, something like a pandemic. And this is particularly important when we're talking about, say, filling lines, which is where we're putting a product into a vial or an injection. The filling lines themselves are extremely expensive facilities to build and to operate. So high utilization of those spaces is very helpful for manufacturers, because otherwise the cost obviously flows on into any sort of product that comes out. So that's an ideal opportunity to increase the efficiency.
Thank you so much for your time today, Stephanie and Gordon. Looking forward to having you both back on the program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Cess. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Once again, those were Stephanie Ledwig, Associate of Life Sciences for Southeast Asia at Lionside, and Gordon Nicholson, Regional Director at IPS Integrated Project Services. For more news, visit manufacturing.asia.